The top 10 things school doesn't tell you about careers, unleashing your potential. I was going to make a top 10 list for the things school does tell you about your career, but you know how that goes. So, how do most people think about careers? How much money do I make? And am I super passionate about it? It's no wonder 80% of people hate their jobs, and three-fourths are actively disengaged at work. How should most people think about their jobs and careers? First, let's establish a few things. All you really own in this world is your mind and your body. They will be of the highest importance for achieving anything in this world. There are three things your job will directly affect, and to prove that money is worthless without these, run this mental experiment. You are offered infinite amount of money in exchange for any one of the following three being entirely sapped. Number one, time. Number one, or number two, your energy. Number three, your stress and happiness levels. Is it worth it? To put money in perspective, consider the following offer Fight Mediocrity made. $2 billion, or you get to keep your arms and your legs. That is to say, $2 billion to hack off your arms and legs. And no cheap hack saying yes and then buying another set of limbs. In the same way, most would outright refuse if your time is sapped, if your energy is sapped, if your stress levels are high and your happiness levels are virtually non-existent. There are many jobs that are just not worth it. So let's get into the top 10 list of things you need to consider when contemplating what you want to do. Number one is time invested into getting the job degree. So time debt and money debt. If I were to tell most people, go call up a place you would love to work at, go call up someone you admire and who is where you want to be, and offer to be an intern, studying under them and offering whatever you can do for them. Most people look at me as if I was crazy. Yet school is really just a 4-year internship that is supposed to be giving you applicable skills. What's the difference though? You pay for that internship. So even if you get a quote higher paying job, it's all relative if you put in 4 to 10 years to do even that. And now you're spending 2 to 6 to pay it all off. Are you really that much better off as opposed to starting out for quote free and working your way up that way? Always ask yourself, as opposed to what? What else could you be doing? Most people don't even consider that the bias we have towards something when it's free as opposed to when we pay for it as far as the value we derive. Yale, Harvard, there's plenty of schools that put up their lectures for free on YouTube. How many people have listened to those? But make people pay $250K for them? It's a different story. Number two, cost of living where you're at. So for example, 80K isn't 80K from New York to Thailand. It's a little bit different. Another based Fight Mediocrity 4-hour work week point. But ideally, you do want to be getting paid in US dollars and spending Thai bahts. So consider where your job has you located and where it is most immediately applicable. Because sure, you could relocate to buttfuck Greenland, but it ties back to one's own individual goals for their environment when it comes to 1, weather, 2, people, 3, government, 4, costs, and 5, what sort of utilities you would like in and around you. Ask yourself where your priorities lie when it comes to those things. Number 3, time travel to and from work. Because even if you are maximizing this time and doing self-improvement, let's say you're listening or somehow you're carpooling, so maybe you're reading, you are still locked in to that time. As in, you can't do other activities you might personally enjoy. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's sports, carpentry, music creation, whatever it is for yourself. Opportunity cost is everything. If you have tons of hobbies that can only be done from place XYZ, that is not close to your work and you are traveling a ton of time to work, there's a price that you pay for that. Because even if you maximize that time, you are still locked in just to listening to those lectures, just to reading, and just to doing whatever you can in a car. Maybe those self-driving cars will free us soon, but that time hasn't come yet. And even then, I don't know how well you play tennis inside a car. So number 4, work environment. So this doesn't just have to be the workers that are around you, which you can generally tell how that's going to go, but it also has to deal with the customers and the people that you will deal with. Point blank, are you dealing with a lot of dicks, either in your work or at your work? What is the price of mental stress from these things? In the same way that if I were to stress you to the fullest, if somebody was to really torture you and say, well, we'll offer you a certain amount of money to get tortured for 16 hours a day. Is that really worth it? So you have to consider, what is the price? Also, how much energy are you expending at work, whether it be physical labor or mental if you work in a job, let's say like sales, where you have to spend time convincing people, overcoming objections, really doing mental jujitsu. Because while it's not physically hard, having worked performance-based sales jobs, the last thing you want to do when you leave work is talk to more people. What's the price on all of these things, as far as the physical demand and the mental demand? Consider the effect your work will have, not only on your time, but on your mental energy, stress, and happiness levels inside and outside your work. These things carry over, and they impact your life outside of it. So number 5, the stress from your job, whether it's just at work or whether it extends beyond that. There are certain jobs that you dread going into. Does your work contain a lot of mindless tasks, micromanagement, or run by people who may be hardworking, but they're stupid, or really the worst sort of people to have a job run by? Because unlike intelligent and hardworking people who have you taking smarter actions, or the GOAT, the greatest of all time, lazy and intelligent, who only have you take action when it is both smart and useful. The stupid and hardworking believe that if something is hard and if something needs to be done at any point, it needs to be done now. And it must be done with the utmost care, even if it's yielding something in the minimal realm relative to what you guys are trying to do, or even potentially really sapping your own energy and ability to contribute positively to whatever end goal you guys have. So what is the price of monotony? What is the price of this micromanagement? What is the price of adherence to idiocracy? And what is the price of going to bed, dreading the next day, going into the office? Number 6, difficulty getting ahead, politics, and how much more duties you get for higher pay. Because depending on what your tax bracket is, sometimes higher pay, if it comes with way more work or way higher taxation, it just may not be worth it relative to what you desire in life. It actually would just be better for some people to work 20 or 30 hours and get paid the same, or to take more vacation time. It's interesting, most jobs don't offer promotions in that way though. Just goes to show you, as Roy Sutherland says, most jobs, most places think about things in a very one-dimensional way. Now, I mean, never mind the fact that in getting ahead, oftentimes you do have to step on a few toes, which can easily come back to bite you in the ass. So how much work will it take for you to move up? How scalable is the job? Does the company or industry promote quickly, or does it take extremely long? Even if you do move up, but you are locked into a high tax environment, what is moving up to you worth as far as fulfillment? But also consider how much energy, how much stress you're taking on, where your happiness levels are going to be. But also consider how much more money you really are making as per the taxes. So consider all these things together. What do you really want in life? Number 7, do you get emails or work after work? So how much does your work affect your out of work life? Does it stop just at work, or does it go beyond that? And number 8, what is your highest and really your main goal? Is it helping people, making money, following a passion? Does your job grant you the highest potential for that? Consider the 4 M's of motivation, where you fall into those as far as a percentage-wise, and do not judge yourself for being lopsided. Most people are, and while we have a symmetry bias, wanting everything to be nice, fair, and egalitarian, it's pretty evident that within our own lives, it doesn't work that way, and for the masses of people, it certainly doesn't work that way. So, number 1 in the 4 M's, mating. Number 2, material. Number 3, mastery, so getting good at something. Number 4, momentum, seeing gains. So get a good idea where you fall into these percentage-wise, and then ask yourself, how does your job tie into them? For example, if you don't have a high need for certain material things, but you have a job that takes a lot of mastery, and maybe let's say you value momentum as well, then who cares if you only get paid 40 or 50K? At the end of the day, it's all about impressing yourself. Live life on your own terms. Live life for yourself and for your own means. Number 9, as opposed to what? Meaning someone studying for 8+ years, paying back debt for 3 to 4 years, may have 300K. Let's say they're making 300K after that. But even someone making 30K will be ahead of him in this time. And that's if they just stayed at 30K for 8+ years. Let's say they just got a regular job and they had no raises, or they didn't move up at all. So always ask yourself, as opposed to what could I be doing with my time? The school route is nice, but is it really tying into your goals? And what is the overall debt you're going to have to pay back? Because being in a situation where you owe money, where you are on your back foot, so to speak, where you're just looking to pay it back, is that going to yield the most positive life? And is that going to allow you to take the most interesting job with the highest level of scalability? And that is tying into the final point. Number 10, does it tap into the hockey stick effect? Meaning, are you in a growing industry? Is your industry growing at a 10% clip? What does the next 5 to 10 years look like? So, for example, if you were to become a master typewriter today, or let's say you were to become a taxi driver or you were open up a hotel, that might not be the best thing to do nowadays. Now, when you look at your own industry, if your industry is going to have a higher demand, let's say your industry is growing at a 10% clip, and you can get into a market leader or you can get into a startup that is going to be a leader within that niche. So they're going to have their own unique products, services, and they're going to have their own unique customer base. Law of rising tides. You will get carried with it, especially if you're able to be one of the first people, and especially if you're able to get stock options. So have I ruined 99.9% of careers yet? So what are the things that everyone needs to ask as far as what they really want to do in life? Shout out to Ty Lopez for the second part of this list. What are your top 3 goals? But also, what is a 5-fold why for each? So ask yourself why 5 times and really challenge yourself to do it. The 5-fold why will help you discover the root of your desires and give you a higher level of self-awareness. Know thyself. When there is no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. And oftentimes, this will allow you to come up with a better solution, because when you get to the root of it, you'll realize, hey, I only want this because of this, but I don't necessarily need to go this path to get to what I really want. So when doing this, keep in mind where you fell into the 4 M's. So the mating, material, mastery, and momentum. And then do a minimal viable product or goal analysis for each of those in seeing what you would be happy with minimalistically speaking. So what would you be happy minimalistically speaking with the material aspect, with the mating aspect, with the mastery aspect, with the momentum aspect? This baseline gives you something easily reachable, but also doesn't stunt your wildest aspirations in any of them. All big corporations and massive workplaces apply this. They'll have a goal that's easily achievable for everybody, but they know that everybody's shooting for way beyond that. So allow yourself to apply the same thing. Cross-pollination is everything after all. So your top 3 strengths, the what of the strength, so how you define it. So let's say, for example, my speaking ability, and I define it as the ability to communicate effectively in phrasing myself in a clear, fluid, flowing, confident manner. The why of the strength, so let's say, are you naturally good into it, or have you really put time working at it? And if so, what material have you consumed to improve, and what work have you done? The reason you want to consider this is that strengths strengthen when you have the passion to do it. Even if something isn't, quote, a strength for you yet, if you have the passion, well, just look at any athlete that didn't achieve their final form because they didn't have the passion for their sport. It may have been a, quote, strength, but they didn't really have the drive for it. So finally, what you want to consider with your top 3 strengths is the top 3 places that it can be applied. Now, you don't have to be super granular with this, saying, oh, it needs to be specific job. You can just say whatever. Let's say speaking specifically. Speaking can be applied to sales, public speaking, and lectures of some sort. So YouTube, online, or in person. Your top 3 passions, that's the next part. How long you've been passionate about it, how much action you have taken upon it, and what sort of contacts you have related to that passion. Also consider why you love it. It may be of value for you to do a 5-fold why for these as well. Finally, what did you want to do at age 14? Ask yourself these 5 questions. So what did you want to do at age 14? As that's when your IQ peaks and when your fear is at its lowest due to still having the remnants from your childhood when people encourage you to pursue your dreams, but not so much near adulthood to where you get a ton of negative feedback and to where you get a ton of the fear setting in. Number 2, what have strangers complimented you on since you were a child? What did you grow up around in? So the environmental factors, as in your parents' occupation, what they push you into, your school, your friends, your memes, the collective memes around you. Number 4, what have you done or what have you been doing in the past 10 years? So hobbies, or even consider what is one thing you were making money at, something you were good at, or something you really enjoy doing that you just stopped for whatever reason. And number 5, on a Saturday night, when you're not at work, when you're just maxing out, relaxing, all cool, no hoop shooting, but shooting the shit with your homies, what can you talk about effortlessly with flowing passion? Finally, ask yourself, who do you know that is closest to achieving what you want, or maybe they've already achieved what you want from your top 3 goals, your top 3 strengths, and your top 3 passions? Depending on what you value the most, you can then seek out this person, and once you have this person, buy an hour or 2 of their time. Take them out to dinner, take them out for coffee. Prepare twice as long for the meeting as the meeting is going to be, as far as the questions you're going to ask, what you want to know. And at the end of it, you may even want to offer to be an apprentice for them, because at that point, you're tapping into their relational capital, their network, and the people that they know. So you will not only, if you deliver on your end, you'll not only be able to do that, but you will gain some valuable experience that is moving you much closer to what you do want to end up doing. So if you show up on time, you do the damn work, they will hook you up with work that you had in mind as far as what your goals really dictate. So after you've done all of this, you will have the following: a very deep look at where you're at as far as why you're driven, a very deep look at what drives you, where your strengths lie, and thus what is best to double down on, where your passions lie, so what will currently drive you, and a great overview for your life's overall trajectory in looking at your childhood, your environment, where you were at age 14, and what you've been doing, and what you currently enjoy the most. If this just gives you a better idea of where you're at right now, that's more than enough to tweak the ship's course as far as being able to put you in an optimal direction towards your goals. If you enjoyed this video, like and share it. Leave a comment down below as far as the one thing that stood out most to you, and don't forget to subscribe. As always, transcend mortal reality.